When my daughter told me she'd emptied our family accounts for a better future, I collapsed against my kitchen counter, gasping for air. Days later, I was watching her laugh about my ruin at a fancy restaurant with my financial advisor. That's when I realized my life had become a theater production where I was the only one who didn't have the script. If you're watching this right now, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're from. Because trust me, this story is about to take more turns than a mountain road during a landslide. 2 months ago, my life made perfect sense. I was Meredith Caldwell, 58, retired Broadway actress, and proud owner of the Starlight Community Theater. Our little playhouse was the crown jewel of Millfield, carrying on 3 generations of my family's theatrical legacy. I'd poured everything into it, my savings, my passion, my soul. Mom, these quarterly reports look fantastic, Evelyn had said just weeks before everything fell apart. My daughter, my only child, my supposed pride and joy. She'd always helped with the theater's books, her finance degree making her the perfect partner in maintaining our family legacy. I remember beaming at her across my cluttered office desk. We might even have enough for those new lighting systems you suggested. Her smile never reached her eyes. I see that now. The morning I discovered everything was gone, I was planning our annual Shakespeare festival. My card declined at the costume shop. Strange, I thought. Must be a glitch. Then my phone buzzed with bank alerts, multiple withdrawals, transfers, accounts emptied. $478,000. Gone. Every penny we had. I called the bank in a panic, hands trembling so badly I could barely hold my phone. They confirmed my worst nightmare. Authorized transfers, proper signatures, all documentation in order. Not fraud, they insisted. Someone with access had done this. Only 2 people had that kind of access, myself and Evelyn. Script part separator . I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Evelyn's apartment, my mind racing with explanations. A mistake. Identity theft. Someone forced her to do this. Anything but what my gut was screaming. Her building's security guard waved me in. He knew me well from my frequent visits. When I knocked on her door, nothing. I used my emergency key. The apartment was empty. Not just empty, cleared out. Furniture gone, closets bare, not so much as a coffee mug left behind. My knees buckled beneath me. My phone rang. It was David Pierce, our family financial advisor for 15 years. Meredith, we need to talk, his voice was grave. I've just discovered some irregularities with your accounts. Irregularities? I laughed, a hollow, desperate sound. David, everything is gone. And so is Evelyn. The silence on the other end stretched too long. David? I'm sorry, Meredith. It appears Evelyn has been planning this for months. She had all the proper authorizations. The transfers were made to offshore accounts. But you would have seen this happening. I screamed. You manage our money. She told me you were transitioning the theater to her name, that you were retiring completely. The paperwork looked legitimate. I hung up and called the police. Officer Jenkins took my statement with a look of pity I'll never forget. Family matters are complicated, Mrs. Caldwell. If she had legal access to these accounts, she stole from me. We'll investigate, but given the documentation, he didn't need to finish. That night, I sat alone in my empty theater. The stage lights cast long shadows as I clutched a framed photo of Evelyn at her graduation. My beautiful, brilliant daughter. Where had I gone so wrong? My phone pinged with a text message. Unknown number. Mom, I'm sorry it had to be this way. But I deserve more than a small-town theater. Don't try to find me. I hurled the phone against the wall and screamed until my voice gave out. The next morning brought a parade of disasters. The theater mortgage payment bounced. Utility shut-off notices arrived. The cast of our upcoming production of The Glass Menagerie needed their stipends. Everyone, I have difficult news, I told them at emergency rehearsal. 20 faces stared back at me. Students, retirees, local shopkeepers who moonlighted as actors. My theater family. Script part separator . We've been robbed, I said, my voice cracking. My daughter, She took everything. Gasps filled the room. These people knew Evelyn. She'd grown up among them, helped with productions, sold tickets at the box office. That can't be right, Margaret, our longtime stage manager, said. Evelyn loves this place as much as you do. I thought so too. I drove home in a daze. The theater had 3 weeks before the mortgage company would initiate foreclosure. My personal checking account had $843 left. My credit cards were maxed out from recent theater renovations. Sleep eluded me. Around 3 a.m., I opened my laptop and started searching social media for any trace of Evelyn. Nothing. She disappeared completely. The next morning, the doorbell rang. David Pierce stood on my porch, looking haggard. I couldn't sleep, he said. This doesn't make sense. Let me help you track the money. I let him in, desperate for any ally. David spread financial documents across my dining table while I made coffee. These signatures, he frowned, examining a stack of transfer authorizations. They're perfect matches for yours. That's impossible. I never signed these. He pulled out his phone and showed me a document with my signature. Is this yours? Yes, from last year's theater tax forms. Now look at this. He laid the authorization beside it. The signatures were identical. Too identical. It's been digitally copied, I whispered. She forged them. David's face darkened. That's fraud. We have something to take to the police now. As he gathered the papers, a business card fell from his wallet. I picked it up, Cayman First Bank, discreet wealth management. David snatched it back too quickly. Just exploring options for clients. Something in his eyes didn't match his words. I'd spent decades on stage reading people's faces. He was lying. The police took the new evidence, but warned me not to get my hopes up. Financial crimes are complicated, Mrs. Caldwell. International transfers even more so. I returned to the theater, determined to save it somehow. While searching for grant applications in the office, I found an old recorder, one I used for capturing sound effects for productions. I clicked play out of habit. What I heard stopped my heart. It's a simple plan. Evelyn's voice came through clearly. She's clueless about finances. You move the money gradually. I signed the papers with her forged signature, and we split 70-30. David's voice replied, she trusts me completely. But what about the theater? It means everything to her. Evelyn's laugh sent ice through my veins. Mom's always been dramatic. She'll survive. Besides, that building is worth more than the business. Once we sell it, we'll have another $1 million to split. I gripped the recorder, so hard my knuckles turned white. Evidence. I had evidence. Script part separator ===. I took the recorder straight to Officer Jenkins, my hands shaking with rage and vindication. This changes everything, he said, his professional detachment cracking slightly as he listened to my daughter plotting my financial ruin. We'll need to find them both. Find them? I echoed. You mean they're gone? Jenkins shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Pierce didn't show up for questioning this morning. His office says he's taken an unexpected leave of absence. They were together. My daughter and my financial advisor, partners in crime. That night, Margaret from the theater called me in a panic. Meredith, there's someone here saying they're from a development company. They're measuring the building and talking about demolition.
What? Stop them.
I shouted, already grabbing my car keys. I'm on my way. When I arrived, a sleek-suited man was examining our vintage marquee, making notes on a tablet. This is private property, I snapped.
Who are you?
He smiled condescendingly. Victor Lansing, Redwood Development. I'm just doing preliminary assessments. The new owners want to move quickly once the sale closes next month. New owners? This theater is not for sale. That's not what my paperwork says. He showed me a preliminary sale agreement with Evelyn's signature at the bottom. Your daughter assures us the title transfer is just a formality. My blood ran cold. When did you meet with her? Yesterday. Lovely young woman. Very business-minded. She's in town? My voice sounded strange even to my own ears. At the Westbrook Hotel. We have another meeting tomorrow to finalize details. I thanked him with a brittle smile and walked back to my car on wobbling legs. Evelyn was here. Not hiding in some tropical tax haven, but right here in Millfield, selling my theater out from under me while I scrambled to save it. I called Officer Jenkins immediately. They're at the Westbrook Hotel. Both of them. I'll send someone. No. They'll run if they see police. I need to confront them myself. Mrs. Caldwell, that's not advisable. But I'd already hung up. Decades on stage had taught me timing was everything. And it was finally time for my confrontation scene. Script part separator . I drove to the Westbrook Hotel in a daze, rage and heartbreak battling inside me. The opulent lobby sparkled with chandeliers that seemed to mock my financial ruin. I'm looking for my daughter, I told the receptionist. Evelyn Caldwell. I'm sorry. We can't disclose guest information. I leaned closer.
Please.
It's an emergency. Her eyes softened. I'm really not supposed to. She's stolen everything from me, I whispered, my voice breaking. My life savings. My theater. Everything. The receptionist glanced around, then whispered, Suite 712. But I never told you. The elevator ride felt eternal. When I reached the 7th floor, I heard laughter spilling from room 712. I recognized those laughs immediately, Evelyn and David. I raised my hand to knock, then stopped. A memory flashed, my old voice recorder. I always carried a spare in my purse for impromptu theater ideas. With shaking hands, I turned it on and slipped it into my pocket. I knocked. The laughter stopped abruptly. When the door opened, Evelyn's smile vanished like stage lights cutting to black. Mom? Her voice was strangled. What are you doing here? Behind her, I saw David frantically gathering papers from a room service table scattered with champagne bottles. Aren't you going to invite me in? I asked, stepping forward before she could refuse. David stood frozen, a deer caught in headlights. We were just discussing business, he stammered.
I can see that.
I gestured to the champagne. Celebrating my financial ruin? Evelyn's face hardened. It's not like that, Mom. You wouldn't understand. Try me. The theater was dying. You were too stubborn to see it. We're saving it just in a different form. By stealing from me? Your own mother? Borrowing, David interjected. We were going to pay you back after the development deal. I laughed bitterly. Borrowing requires permission. Mom, be reasonable, Evelyn sighed. That theater is a money pit. This deal will make us all rich. Us? I raised an eyebrow. I notice I'm not at this meeting. David stepped forward, placating. Meredith, we can work something out. A smaller percentage, perhaps?
Don't insult me.
I turned to my daughter. Tell me one thing. Was any of it real? Did you ever care about the theater? About our family legacy? Script part separator . Something flickered in Evelyn's eyes. Anger, not remorse. Legacy? She spat. That moldy old building has been an anchor around our family's neck for generations. Grandma could have sold it and retired comfortably. You could have had a real career instead of playing small-town theater director. Every word was a dagger. I had Broadway. I chose to come home. You chose mediocrity, she said coldly. I'm choosing success. David cleared his throat. Perhaps we could discuss a compromise. There's no compromise for theft. I shouted. You're both going to prison. Evelyn laughed, actually laughed. With what evidence? Every document is perfectly legal.
My name is on those accounts.
The police already told you that. We have the theater's best interests at heart, David said smoothly. The new development will include a small performance space. We could name it after you. How generous, I said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Naming a corner of a shopping mall after the woman you robbed. Evelyn's phone chimed. She glanced at it, then whispered something to David. We have another meeting, she said, suddenly businesslike. I'm sorry you're upset, Mom, but this is happening. The sooner you accept it, the sooner we can move forward as a family. Family? The word tasted like poison. You destroyed our family the moment you decided to steal from me. Drama queen as always, Evelyn sighed, gathering her designer purse. This is why I couldn't tell you my plans. You're incapable of seeing the bigger picture. David had the decency to look uncomfortable as they ushered me toward the door. The development company is offering $2 million for the property, he murmured. We could arrange a small stipend for you. I slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. Script part separator equals. I see you tomorrow in court, I said as I stepped into the hallway. Both of their faces fell. If you press charges, you'll only embarrass yourself, Evelyn called after me. Everything was done legally. The door slammed behind me. I walked to the elevator on legs that threatened to buckle, fumbling in my pocket for the recorder. Thank God it was still running. I had their confession about the forged signatures, their scheme, everything. Back in my car, I played the recording and wept with relief. It wasn't just imagined betrayal. The cold calculation in my daughter's voice as she dismissed our family legacy made my skin crawl. When had my sweet little girl transformed into this stranger? Officer Jenkins looked grim when I placed the recorder on his desk. We'll need to act quickly. If they suspect you have this, they'll run. 2 hours later, I watched from across the street as police led David and Evelyn from the hotel in handcuffs. The sight brought me no joy, only a hollow ache where my heart used to be. But our troubles were far from over. The next morning, my lawyer called with devastating news. They've filed an emergency injunction, Meredith. It freezes all disputed assets until the case is resolved. What does that mean for the theater? I asked, dreading the answer. It means you can't access any funds to pay the mortgage. If you miss next week's payment, the bank can still foreclose. Script part separator equals. I collapsed into my kitchen chair. But that's only 5 days away. I need $12,000 to make the payment. I'm working on getting a judge to release emergency funds, but frankly, it's a long shot. The countdown had begun. 5 days to save the theater or lose everything, even with Evelyn and David in custody. I called an emergency meeting at the Starlight that evening. The entire cast and crew squeezed into the green room as I explained our dire situation. Without that mortgage payment, we lose the theater regardless of the criminal case. Margaret, my stage manager for 15 years, stood up first. I have $2,000 in savings. It's yours. One by one, they offered what they could, $500 here, $300 there. By the end of the night, we'd raised $5,800, not nearly enough, but a start. As everyone filed out, Jackson Barnes, our janitor, who never missed a performance, lingered behind. Ms. Caldwell, I've been cleaning theaters for 40 years, and I've never seen a place with more heart than this one. He pressed a folded check in my hand. My late wife's insurance money. I was saving it, but she would have wanted this. The check was for $5,000. I tried to refuse, but he wouldn't hear it. You gave me purpose when I lost her. Let me help save your purpose too. I hugged him, tears streaming down my face. We were just $1,200 short. With 3 days left, I might actually pull this off. The next morning, I was putting up Save the Starlight posters when my phone rang. An unknown number. Mrs. Caldwell? This is Victor Lansing from Redwood Development. My blood ran cold. The developer. Your daughter and I had an agreement. My daughter is in jail for fraud, I snapped. Unfortunate, but irrelevant to our contract. I've spoken with my lawyers and your signature is on the preliminary agreement as well.
What?
That's impossible. Check your email. The document is quite clear. Script part separator equals. I hung up and frantically checked my email. There it was, my signature on a document I'd never seen. Another perfect forgery. I called my lawyer immediately. He's claiming I signed an agreement to sell. This complicates things, he admitted. Even with the criminal case proceeding, this creates a parallel legal battle over the property itself. The walls were closing in. I had to make that mortgage payment in 2 days, and now I was fighting a development company with deep pockets. That afternoon, while sorting through old props in the theater basement, I discovered something that made my heart stop. A box labeled Tech Archives. Inside were dozens of old recording devices we'd used for sound effects over the years. On a hunch, I checked if any were still working. 3 were. And they had been recording. I played back the first tape and heard mundane theater business. The second was the same. But the third... I need you to understand what's at stake here. David's voice came through clearly. We're talking about $2 million. A woman's voice replied, not Evelyn's. I don't care about the money. That theater was my mother's life. With a shock, I realized it was Lisa, our former assistant manager, who'd left suddenly 6 months ago. David's voice lowered. Your mother's debts aren't your responsibility. Besides, Evelyn has worked out a perfect plan. The old lady won't suspect a thing until it's too late. Lisa's voice trembled. This feels wrong. Meredith's been nothing but kind to me. Kindness doesn't pay bills, David replied coldly. Your mother owes me $200,000. This clears the debt. Now, are you in or out? A long pause, then. I'm out. Find someone else to betray Meredith. The recording cut off. I sat frozen, pieces falling into place. David had been the architect all along, manipulating my daughter. And when Lisa refused to help, he turned to Evelyn instead. I called Officer Jenkins immediately. The plot went deeper than we thought. And I might know where to find more evidence. Script part separator ===. 2 hours later, Jenkins and a forensic accountant were combing through David's downtown office. I paced outside, a strange calm replacing my earlier panic. The bigger the betrayal, the clearer my purpose became. My phone rang, the bank. Mrs. Caldwell, we've received an unusual request to verify signatures on documents dating back 3 years. My heart leapt. That would be Officer Jenkins' doing. We've found some inconsistencies, the banker continued. It appears many of the transfer authorizations contain digital duplicates of your signature from a single source document. So you're saying they're forgeries? Technically, yes. We're freezing all disputed transactions immediately. One disaster averted. But I still needed to make that mortgage payment tomorrow. As I hung up, Jenkins emerged looking grim but satisfied. We found a treasure trove, Meredith. David kept meticulous records of everything, including his attempts to recruit Lisa before turning to your daughter. What about Evelyn? I asked, hating how much I still cared despite everything. Jenkins hesitated. According to these records, David was blackmailing her too. Something about gambling debts she'd hidden from you. The revelation hit like a physical blow. My daughter had betrayed me, but she'd been manipulated too. I didn't need to know, I whispered, though a part of me was desperate for any reason to still love her. There's more, Jenkins said gently. David was planning to double-cross Evelyn after the sale. She would have gotten nothing. Script part separator ===. I drove home in a daze, emotions warring inside me. Evelyn had still chosen betrayal, blackmail or not. But learning she was also a victim of David's schemes complicated my anger. The mortgage payment was still due tomorrow. We were $1,200 short. Around midnight, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Margaret standing there with a shoebox. I went through our costume jewelry collection, she said. Some of these pieces are actually valuable. The vintage brooches alone should cover what we need. I hugged her tightly. You're saving us.
No, she replied.
You saved us all for years. It's our turn now. The next morning, I took the jewelry to a local appraiser. He offered $1,500 on the spot. With trembling hands, I made the mortgage payment with 2 hours to spare. But the development company was still claiming their contract was valid. The court date was set for next week to determine ownership of the theater. That night, unable to sleep, I sat in the empty theater, letting memories wash over me. My first role on the stage at age 7. My mother directing from the front row. Evelyn's debut as a fairy in A Midsummer Night's Dream. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. 3rd row, under seat 12. You need this. Lisa. I scrambled to the 3rd row and felt underneath seat 12. My fingers found a small USB drive taped there. Back in my office, I plugged it in with shaking hands. The drive contained dozens of recordings and documents. David's entire operation laid bare, including the forged contracts with Redwood Development. The final file was a video message from Lisa. Meredith, her face appeared, tired but determined. I'm sorry I disappeared without explanation. David threatened my mother when I refused to help him. I've been gathering evidence ever since. This should be enough to stop him for good. Script part separator . I called Officer Jenkins and my lawyer at dawn. By noon, Victor Lansing from Redwood Development was being questioned by police. By evening, the development contract was officially nullified. But there was still one conversation I needed to have. One wound that needed addressing, even if it couldn't be healed. I requested a jail visit with Evelyn. They brought her into the sterile visitation room, her designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit that made her look younger, vulnerable. Mom, she said, eyes downcast. I didn't think you'd come. I studied her face. The face I'd kissed goodnight for 18 years. The face I'd seen light up at Christmas mornings and theater curtain calls.
Why?
I asked simply. Even with David's pressure, why would you do this to me? Her eyes filled with tears. The gambling started in college. Just poker games at first. Then online betting. I kept thinking I'd win it back.
You could have come to me.
And admit I'd failed? That I wasn't the perfect daughter you always bragged about? Her voice cracked. David found out. He said he'd help me pay it off if I helped him with a business opportunity. By the time I realized what he really wanted. You still had a choice, I interrupted. You could have chosen your mother over money. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I told myself you'd be fine, she whispered. That you were strong. That it was just money and property. Her shoulders slumped. I was going to pay you back after. At least, that's what I kept telling myself.
And now?
I asked, voice steady despite the storm inside me. Now I've lost everything that matters. She finally met my eyes. Including you. I reached across the table and took her hand. Not in forgiveness. That would take longer than this visit allowed, but in acknowledgement of our broken bond. I don't know if we can fix this, I said honestly. But I know what it's like to make terrible mistakes. Script part separator . When I walked out of that visitation room, I felt something I hadn't expected. The faintest flicker of peace. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the first step toward understanding. 3 days later, I received the news that changed everything. The district attorney was offering Evelyn a deal, testimony against David in exchange for reduced charges. She'd serve 6 months, with 3 years probation. I sat in the back of the courtroom during David's arraignment, watching as he pleaded not guilty despite the mountain of evidence against him. The man who had orchestrated my family's destruction looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit, his confident smile replaced by a fearful grimace. The prosecution calls Lisa Montgomery to the stand. My heart leapt as Lisa walked in. I hadn't seen her since she'd disappeared 6 months ago. She caught my eye and gave a small, sad smile before taking the oath. For the next hour, she methodically detailed David's elaborate scheme, how he'd targeted wealthy clients with family businesses, created artificial debt, then manipulated family members against each other for financial gain. I was only his latest victim. Ms. Montgomery, why didn't you report this sooner? The prosecutor asked. Lisa's voice shook slightly. He threatened my mother's care facility. Said he'd have her removed if I didn't cooperate. When I still refused, he moved on to Evelyn. I closed my eyes, letting the full weight of the betrayal wash over me. David had been like family for 15 years, joining us for holidays, attending Evelyn's graduation, helping me manage the theater finances after my husband died. All while plotting our downfall. The judge denied bail. As officers led David away, he locked eyes with me for one brief moment. I saw no remorse there, only rage at being caught. That evening, the theater community gathered at the Starlight for our first rehearsal since the crisis began. When I walked in, they erupted in applause. Margaret rushed forward with tears in her eyes. The show must go on, right? I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat, so I just nodded and embraced her. 6 months passed in a blur of rebuilding. The theater flourished with renewed community support. Local businesses sponsored productions. Attendance doubled. The Starlight shone brighter than ever. On the day Evelyn was released, I waited outside the county jail, my stomach in knots. She emerged squinting in the sunlight, looking both older and younger somehow. Her voice was uncertain, as if she didn't quite believe I'd come. I thought you might need a ride, I said simply. The drive home was quiet until she finally broke the silence. I don't deserve your forgiveness. No, I agreed. But forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to move forward. At the theater that evening, we held a special performance, a fundraiser for a gambling addiction support center. As I took the stage to introduce the show, I saw Evelyn slip into a back row seat. Tonight is about second chances, I told the audience, about the courage to rebuild what was broken. My eyes found my daughter in the crowd, and about the strength to recognize that our greatest performances often come after our most devastating failures. The house lights dimmed. The curtain rose. And in that moment of darkness before the stage lights revealed our actors, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Evelyn would work to repay what she'd stolen, both financially and emotionally. I would work to understand how we drifted so far apart. The road ahead would be difficult, with setbacks and struggles, but it would be honest. As the first lines of dialogue rang out across the theater, I smiled. Some stories don't end with perfect justice or complete resolution. Some stories simply continue, changing and evolving like the theater itself. And that, perhaps, is the greatest plot twist of all. The final night of our recovery fundraiser, I stood center stage during curtain call. Evelyn joined me, our hands clasped as we faced the future, scarred but standing. The applause washed over us like forgiveness.